Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for another episode of Coffee with Keren. Today we have Stephanie Munson-Sweeney because she was recently married, and Stephanie is the owner of Anie Services, and we are talking about oil tanks and remediation today. Stephanie, there we
Hello
go.
everybody, I'm so super excited. So I do a lot of environmental work, consulting work, as I spent a lot of time working with residential oil tanks. And if anybody in real estate knows that could be a huge pain in the butt if you don't address it early in the transaction.
Right, so one of the things we definitely want to remember when we're buying a residential home is to check whether there is a current oil tank or if there ever was. And your agent should really be going into town to check records because sometimes houses have the oil tank removed or they have it filled in. A lot of lenders do not allow someone to get a mortgage on a house that has an oil tank. So I wanted Stephanie to join us today so that she can give us a little bit more background about oil tanks and how they need to be handled because they can be a real issue, right?
Yes, I just remember getting a lot of phone calls at the end of the transaction when people are like, we have an oil tank, we have a closing on Friday. We're like, oh, that's terrible. Because there's a lot of things that have to happen when you actually remove the tank. And I mean, it's about 5 foot long, 4 foot wide. It's buried usually about 3 feet under the ground. So you need a machine to come out. There's a lot of moving parts when you're pulling an oil tank. Especially with the permits and the markouts, you have to call an underground utility markout, which takes 3 to 4 days for them to come out and make sure there's no gas lines or water lines or all the lines. So just the physical aspect of it takes a little while. The one thing that started coming more recent is the previously abandoned oil tanks.
Right, and those are the ones where the prior owner may have filled in the tank with, soil
Usually
and crushed
sand.
stone?
Yeah, it's usually a sand. For a while they were using a foam. Sometimes they use concrete. So
Wow.
yeah, that's the foam too makes a mess because you have to dig everything out.
Right.
So with the previously abandoned tanks, I started talking a lot with the building inspectors because when this started coming about, you have somebody say they either convert to gas or they install a new above ground tank. They fill the old tank, they go in, they properly clean it. Even if they do everything properly, they get the permit, it gets inspected, they don't see any holes. They fill it with sand. Well, now you have this tin can in the ground filled with sand. It has a hole cut in the top of it because a man physically goes in, or woman, I have been in an oil tank, physically goes inside and cleans it. So you have this water going in and out and it's going to rust. So years down the road, they're going to sell their house. The new buyer comes in, the mortgage company or the insurance company won't allow that tank to stay in the ground and they say we need to take it out.
Let's talk a little bit about what can happen if you have an oil tank that's in ground that has not been properly abandoned. What are we looking at damage-wise?
So when there are holes in the oil tank, the oil will seep out and penetrate the soil below. So you have to call the DEP, the contractor will call and get a case number. That case number is assigned to the property and you have to do the work to clean it up.
So what are our options as real estate agents? Because as you know me, I like to work with professionals and people that are great at what they do. What should real estate agents recommend to their buyers to do in order to avoid this whole ordeal of, God forbid, underground water or soil being contaminated? What are our options?
So your options would be to first do a tank sweep, find out, do your OPRA request. I guess first would be an OPRA request and see if there's any permits in the township, pull the permit, see if the tank was actually removed, if it was abandoned in place, see if the new tank has been installed properly, if that had a permit, or if the conversion to gas took place. Even just a soil remediation just to come out. I mean, you're looking at, could be anywhere from 12, 20, 30,000 and it just keeps going up and up. So it's not a problem you would want to buy. Check early. If you think that there's a tank at the house that you want to purchase, just, find out early and have that, on the forefront of the transaction, and just so the communication too, it's just, you don't want to wait to the end.
Absolutely. So if you guys have any questions about oil tanks or oil tank remediation or permit, you guys can reach out to her directly. Thank you for coming and spending time with us today here at Coffee with Keren.
Yes.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.